Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Jason DeCosta, and this is Consistent Preterism. Thank you for joining me today. We are cruising for a bruising, and just rolling down the road in my Silverado, and wanted to yap a little bit about just a couple of things. Obviously, at this point, it's kind of like IO is untouchable, right? They're just the big bad dog in the room. People are afraid of it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to face the facts. But we as IOers love the truth, right? It's clarity. It's refreshing. It's freeing. It's liberating. And so we keep pressing forward. We keep, as the Bereans would, going line upon line and trying to make sense of this thing. And I think we've done a really good job so far. And as I always say, it's a work in progress. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's final. It probably will never be perfect and never be final because we're dealing with ancient writings in a culture and language that we have nothing to do with, and we had no idea what it was about until we started looking at these things. So there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of hidden meaning. There's a lot of, mythical, mystical type things going on. A lot of symbolism. And so to think that anyone would ever understand it fully is kind of laughable. And it also puts it into perspective like, hey, this is the way that God chose to reveal his most important plan to all humanity. Give them ancient Hebrew and Greek letters that were written in a time that was completely different from ours, and then we'll have to fight over them for years upon years upon years, never agreeing, arguing, debating. Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Not. So anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about this jealousy that Paul talks about in Romans. And if you've looked at any of my Romans audios and works, you would see that clearly Romans 1 is about Israel. It's a discourse about Israel. It matches that of Acts 7, where Stephen talks about Israel's history. It's pretty much line by line, verbatim with a lot of the things that Stephen says in Acts 7. And obviously, when there's that much, matching, it's probably talking about the same thing, and sure enough it is. And then Romans 2, obviously the law and the hearts, showing that the work of the law of Moses, the only law in the story, by the way, was written on their hearts. Again, a hearkening back to the promise that God made that the children of Israel would have these laws and statutes written on their hearts and minds, and that elevated and highlighted the importance of the covenant relationship that they had. So again, this is just Paul, pulling from that framework. But as we go forth into Romans, we see all these different statements like Abraham our father, again, just, showing that these are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob clearly. And then we get to the Romans 9, where Paul is asking about the mercy falling on the Gentiles or the nations, and he quotes 3 passages about Israel's history, specifically Hosea and Isaiah. Hosea, where he says, you were once not a people, but now have become the people of God. Well, that's Hosea, right? That's a prophecy about the northern kingdom of Israel, and that is a prophecy that talked about the Israelites being not a people, right? Not a nation. They were outside of the confines of the nation. They were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, and and they would eventually receive mercy. God would gather them back and once again would call them his people. So we see that, and then we get to Romans 10, where Paul is talking about the jealousy, right? He quotes a passage from Deuteronomy about, I will provoke you to jealousy by those who are not a nation. Now, there's a lot of, back and forth about what this jealousy is, who it's between, right? The traditional view is that the jealousy is between the Jew and the pagan, right? So the Jews would be jealous of salvation going out to just random pagans, right? But that's not what Paul is speaking about at all, actually. Paul is speaking about the jealousy between the 2 houses of Israel, which was a theme in the Old Testament, by the way. You actually see passages in the writings of Isaiah that talk about God taking away the jealousy of Ephraim towards Judah and removing the jealousy and envy of Judah towards Ephraim, right? I mean, this is, again, everything in the New Testament is just simply pulled from Israel's prophetic text. So who's it about? Yeah, good question. Anyway, so it's not about random Joe Blow pagans, provoking, prideful Jews to jealousy, right? It's about the lost Israelites, the dogs, if you will, not dogs, but the paganized Israelites, the dirty, unclean Israelites It's about them receiving mercy and provoking their Jewish brethren, or Israel in that first century, right? The nation of Israel. It's about provoking them to jealousy. Okay, and the only way that happens is if it's a brother, right? I mean, think about with kids, right? You have kids that are siblings, and when you give one kid a piece of candy and the other kid sees it, the other kid's going to go nuts and want it, right? He's jealous. And that's the model here, okay? The model is not, one kid gets a piece of candy and then a kid from another family, on the side gets jealous because your kid got candy. No, the model is the two brothers, one got candy, one got jealous, right? So that's what Paul is trying to outline here. This making the two one, this reconciliation mission, this search for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It's all tied up and related to one end goal. So these wannabe Israelites will argue against that and say, no, look, it says that they were provoked to jealousy by those who are not a nation. This clearly cannot be Israel. Well, again, this just reveals their ignorance and their lack of, foresight and their lack of understanding, because that very much ties in beautifully with so many other things. And I'll give you a few examples here to lay that out. In the beginning, in the Gospels, Jesus, in John especially, Jesus says that he has sheep not of this fold, right? As he's speaking to Israel in that day, modern day Israel in that day, the Jews, Israel, he was speaking to them and telling them that he has sheep also not of this fold, and they too he will bring. So Jesus points to a group of sheep, or individual sheep, that are outside of the commonwealth of Israel, those whom he was speaking to in that very moment. And he says they too shall come. So these were those who are not a nation, folks. Plain and simple, right? I mean, this is Jesus speaking to those who are a nation, that meaning those of Israel, and he's telling them that he has sheep not of that fold, that being those who are not a nation, those who are outside of the commonwealth of Israel, those who are alienated of the covenants of promise, but who are being gathered back in. Okay, I'll give you another example. Caiaphas, in John 11, when speaking to the Jews, says that not only did he die for the nation, there it is again, right? The nation, Israel, the Jews, the chosen ones within that nation, but he also will gather together the sons of God who are scattered abroad, says Caiaphas. Okay, so again, we have the distinction, we have the nation, right? And we have the sons of God scattered abroad. He would gather the sons of God scattered abroad into the nation. Sorry, I just got a call, so I had to take that. So if there was a little bit of a breakup there, that's why. But again, Jesus says the sons of God scattered abroad. So there's the delineation. There's the distinction. You have the nation. He didn't die only for them, but he also died for the sons of God scattered abroad. That's the Israelites scattered abroad. That's those who are not a nation, folks. Very simple stuff. They would be provoked to jealousy by those who are not a nation. These are the sons of God scattered abroad. These are the sheep not of this fold. These are the ones in Hosea that Hosea said are not a people. Speaking of the northern kingdom of Israel, how they were dispersed and scattered and became not a people. That's not a nation. Okay? But they would be brought back, says the prophecy. And of course, Paul quotes that in Romans 9 when asking about the mercy that's falling upon the nations. Hello, folks. Wake up. So the provoking to jealousy works so much better in the inside of the Israel as a whole framework, right? When you start going off into these pagan ideas that whom God never knew, you get really sticky, right? And that's probably the source of much of the confusion, well, at least certainly some part of it, with all these different denominations, different debates, different ideas, different opinions. Nobody can agree on the same thing. The Holy Spirit leading into all confusion. That's why. Because this story was never about us. This was about them. So the jealousy by those who are not a nation is simply the bringing back of the scattered Israelites, those who were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, strangers to the covenants of promise at that particular time, lost and dead in trespasses and sins, as Paul said in Colossians, dead in the trespass of being uncircumcised in the flesh of their foreskin. Why on earth would a pagan from Egypt be dead in the trespass of not being circumcised in the old Wiener Schnitzel? It makes no sense. Okay. So again, this one's short and sweet today because I'm rumbling, I'm rolling down the road. I'm a rambling man. And I just wanted to talk on that a little bit and connect it a little bit further for you to show that when somebody starts arguing that, oh, you know, these ones were not a nation, therefore Io is trash. Well, they clearly don't understand the story. They don't understand the promises about what the Northern Kingdom specifically was going to become. They don't understand the promises about how they were going to become not a people. That's not a nation, folks. But yet God would one day call them back. Moses also talks about this. He says, in the latter days, you'll be scattered, paganized, worshiping idols, the work of men's hands, wood and stone. But God will remember the covenant that he made with your fathers, and he will forgive you of your sins and have mercy on you. Well, that's Paul in Romans 4, when he says, Abraham, who is the father of us all. He's pointing back to the promise made to their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and he's letting them know that this is what's being fulfilled. In Abraham's seed, or in Abraham's descendants, many nations would be blessed. And that's exactly what's happening as they're gathering in the elect, chosen heirs of promise, aka all Israel, from all nations. Folks, I hope you have a great day. If you did like it, please give it a like-a-rooski. If not, take a hike-a-rooski, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.